All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Google Classroom for Arts Education. This session is part of the DPI Arts Education team's Making Lemonade series. Just a quick note that we will be recording this webinar and posting it to our webinar archive. You can also click on the link to the bit.ly that we have shared in the chat to follow along the slide deck and access later if you wish. Please take a moment to notice the graphics on the next page that are clickable links for you to find our Google site homepage. This page contains updates and links to register for any upcoming webinars, a webinar archive of recordings of our previous sessions, a page devoted to remote learning resources, and many more resources that you may find helpful in planning and implementation. You can also sign up for our listserv to receive newsletters in your email and follow our Facebook page for updates as well. Those links have also been shared in the chat. I'd like to...
Sayward, if you can pause just for a minute. We have a lot of people who are experiencing audio issues.
Okay.
If I see that many of you are not connected to audio, and in your little buttons at the bottom, you should see 3 little buttons, and if you click on them, you should be able to get to audio settings, and that will help you. I will also drop the call-in information into the chat, but I just want to make sure that everybody who can hear should be able to. So thank you so much. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. Yeah, we want to make sure that we can help you as much as possible. All right, I'd like to take a moment to introduce ourselves to you. My name is Sayward Quindley. I am your dance and visual arts consultant for DPI, and I'm happy to be here just starting in May. I'll introduce to you now my partner on the Arts Ed team. This is Brandon.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm your K-12 music and theater arts specialist, and if you have any questions surrounding those 2 areas, I am happy to talk to you about any of those things. And of course, any sort of curriculum and instruction or framework stuff, we're happy to meet with you one-on-one and do some brainstorming.
Thanks, Brandon. And so Brandon and I really work closely as an arts education team. And even though we are assigned to our different disciplines, we both are proficient in all 4. So either one can help you with anything that you need. And although she is not here with us today, our section chief for the social studies and arts education section is former theater educator, Dr. Lori Major Carlin. And we really look to her for sharing a positive mindset and solutions-focused mindset. We're also sharing information today from Kate Cummings, the NCDEO president and dance educator from Wake County. And since she is still on maternity leave, I will be presenting for her. And lastly, we're very excited to introduce our 2 guest presenters for today, Andrew from Vance County Schools and Jill from the North Carolina Museum of Art. And I'm going to let them tell a little bit about themselves. So Andrew.
Should I go ahead, since it sounds like Andrew's having muting problems?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm Jill, manager of school and teacher programs at the North Carolina Museum of Art, and I'm excited to join you all today.
Thank you, Jill. Andrew, yeah, we can hear you now.
Google Classroom district last everybody. Start.
All right, thank you, everyone. Yes, we are having a few technical issues because of the storm coming in, so thank you for bearing with us. We will be sharing the webinar archive, the recording of today with you in your follow-up email. and it will be posted on our website as well. So if you're having issues, don't worry, you can view that at a later time. So thank you for understanding and bearing with us through this storm today. All right, a few housekeeping things that we do encourage your video, but it is not required. Feel free to use the chat for any questions or technical issues as you've already been doing, and Brandon and I will respond. Please remember to stay muted so that we do not get any background noise and we can try to hear the presentation, but understanding that we may have some feedback today with the weather situations. We do have it on closed captioning to help you follow along, but if for some reason you cannot hear or get your sound to work, remember that we are recording and you can always go back and watch that recording for anything you've missed. If we notice that you may have accidentally unmuted, we may send you a gentle note just to let you know. WebEx is our state mandated program. Here's a reminder of your screen and controls. Take a moment to notice where you mute, chat, and the video layout features of the program. Here is your agenda for today, which will today include a Q&A if there is time and if our technology is working with us. And then your webinar goals for today, we will be starting with an overview of the North Carolina Essential Standards for Remote Learning, especially for arts education. We will hear from our guest speakers and learn about thinking differently, adapting a team perspective, and tips and examples for using Google Classroom in virtual and blended instruction. All right, thanks, Brandon, take it away.
All right, I think it's very important to remember that we're stronger together, and though we often are the only educator in our building or in our subject, that we can do this together, and that's why we're here together. You are not alone in this. In fact, you are so not alone that there are 386 school units serving 1.55 million public school students in 2,500 public schools, and that contains over 7,000 arts teachers in the 4 arts areas. We're very excited about the required arts ed requirement that you can learn about by clicking on that link there. We all know and love the comprehensive arts education structure, and we believe that even in this virtual and remote learning environment, we can still provide quality arts education, arts integration, and arts exposure experiences for our students. Remember that this is not an education crisis, and so we can do everything we can to prepare our student or ourselves and create structures that promote success for our students. One of those frameworks that I really, really love is the instructional design principles for remote teaching and learning. I've presented this in every single one of our webinars, so that's why we're moving pretty quickly today. If you aren't familiar with this, please make sure that you come back to this slide. It's slide 13 in the slide deck and become familiar with it because it's really great for building your course with students. Oops, I'm sorry about that. We also love talking about the creative design process. Sometimes that's referred to as the engineering design process if you've been around lots of STEM people. But engaging our students in that is really important for creating lifelong artists. And that's artists as in musicians, dancers, thespians, and visual artists. So including them in the process of problem solving some of the issues that you might be facing could be a wonderful way to promote artistic thinking in your students as well. That might pay off in dividends by the time that you get back to the classroom. Remember that your attitude and your excitation for this situation is going to reflect in your students. If you can reflect positivity, your students will be positive, and unfortunately, if you're less than positive, your students will probably be less than positive too. We can do this. All right. One very last thing that I'm I feel remiss that I hadn't been on top of to share with many of you earlier is the fact that the North Carolina Virtual Public School has been doing digital transition webinars for educators, trying to reach out to their peers who are not used to teaching online and share with them what they know. Some of their archived webinars you can get to from the slide, including the basics of Canvas, meaningful feedback, meeting the needs of diverse learners, and communication strategies for students and parents. I feel like this is a huge area of need that we keep getting information on our our post-webinar surveys that you guys are looking for this information, including increasing student engagement. There's part 1 of that webinar tomorrow and part 2 on Thursday, and part 2 is actually co-led by the visual arts teacher at NC Virtual. All right, I'm going to kick it back over to Sayward to talk to you a little bit more about some tips, tricks, and hacks.
Great, thanks, Brandon. So first, we're going to share some tips and hacks and resources for you to be able to come back to on your own time. So we're not going to dive fully into these, but we want to make sure that you know where they are so that you can access them later. This resource here covers many of the basics for how to use Google Classroom. If you are new to Google Classroom, be sure to check out this slide on slide 18 of the slide deck that Brandon is going to share in the chat. But this is an entire slideshow of helpful information and tips on Google Classroom setup. The next page is an image that shows some amazing tricks that we have learned since March. We keep seeing others share links that take us to a page where we automatically make a copy of a template or a preview of a document, which is the way you're looking at it on this slide deck. If you click on the image in the previous slide, you'll experience the make a copy function as you'll be directed to make a copy of that classroom cheat sheet and add it to your own Google Drive. We have a whole list of quite a bit more resources that you may find useful. On this page, you'll see some including time-saving tricks, a Google Classroom checklist for when setting up your own, and some specific arts ed tools. And then we go into some specific music resources and some art, visual art and theater arts. And keep in mind that all of these, even though they may have a specific content area listed, that you could really use them and adapt them for anything. So scroll through all of them, look through them, and see which ones you may find useful. They might not be the ones listed for your content area. Here are some helpful tools in presenting your course material. Please check with your specific school and district to see what is allowed for your situation. Some of them may be allowed and some of them may not. There are some great quick response tools, great for giving feedback and announcements to your classes. And then we have some possible tools that you can use to potentially rehearse virtually. So again, those are all resources for you to keep in your back pocket, come to at a later time. Now we're going to hand it over to Andrew to talk about his use of Google Classroom from a district perspective, and hopefully his internet is going to work out for us. If for any reason we have any issues, then we will take over and share his slides for him, but we're going to try this and see how it goes.
Well, hopefully you all are able to hear me. A lot of the information is on the slides, just in case you can't. I put on here the world in which we're comfortable. This is what we're used to doing every day. And we rehearse, we play, we sing, we create, we put on displays, we have concerts. We call it a school. But we flip. Where we're at now looks a little bit different. And we're talking about 3 plans for opening schools. One of them is kind of off the table right now in most places. So some of you might be in a school district where you're using Plan B, 50% of the population in your building, social distancing, face covering, kind of a blend of models throughout your school. I know our district, I'm in Vance County. We're starting our year, the first 9 weeks as a remote learning school, planning to go up to Plan B in late October. The difference being for us, we're not reviewing instruction because we're not sure kids can get on. We know all our kids can get on. We have devices provided for every child. Now the instruction's got to be meaningful and it's got to be standards based. So how do we do that? And what does it mean? I mean, we're arts teachers. What we're used to is that hands-on contact with our students. We're used to seeing them in the room in front of us, and that means something. So what does that look like for us moving forward, for any of us moving into a Google Classroom setup? We've got to think differently. We can still teach, we can still provide our content our way. We just have to do it a little differently. In that first bullet, we all know how to do this. We just haven't had to before. So we've got to dig back into that toolbox. And how do we pull out assessments, performance, art galleries, even live instruction? We're going to be doing that with our high school band and chorus, even potentially theater. We're having our directors conducting rehearsal with silent blocks of kids who are playing, we just can't hear them. And then merging those blocks of sound into a performance, even if it's 8 measures at a time that kids can hear back. We wouldn't normally do it that way, but that's the challenge that we've got. We happen to have a team Google Classroom, I call it VCS Arts, for everyone to use for updates, information. We've downscaled it right now, put a few things on that our high school can use because they're in session. We established regular virtual meets in some form or fashion. We had used Google Meet, Zoom to share ideas, frustrations, celebrate everything. We do a lot of co-teaching within their classroom. That's something we're adding now this year. Last year was visits. Now we're hoping that teachers will get together, collaborate, and co-teach, or they can invite me in and co-teach through their classroom. I'm an arts educator as well as the director of fine arts, so I know what they're doing. The biggest thing we keep preaching to them is don't shortchange your content. We are as important as any core content. I would venture to say we are a core content. So we have to make our classroom relevant. If we don't do that, it's very hard to advocate for that message unless we're going to put out meaningful content. The biggest question is, how do we do that? What could that look like? So when we keep flipping, I have some examples on here, and you may not be able to pull these up with all the problems that are going on, but there's an art classroom example on here. This is literally an online gallery of online work that was submitted last spring. And this teacher happened to take her students' work, submit it into a gallery. Their names were on here so they could see their classmates' work. Parents could see it. Everybody from the school could see it. And she collaborated that into one gallery. The art video example was just using one of our art teachers using Powtoon. And when he played this, that's him. If you walked into his classroom, that's him. He's designed the characters to look exactly like him, but it gave the kids a sense of normalcy, like Mr. Barrett was talking to them and explaining this lesson to them. So it was a great way of just using those tools in a way that he might not normally do that. I think the next one I had on there were some music examples. The video example was not kids at all. She had found this right after she got done with her instrument unit. And then used this, a song the kids are very familiar with from Frozen, and then challenged them for, what instrument did you see? What can you name? How was it used? But using something that was outside there, took it right off of YouTube. Safe YouTube was a great way of doing that as well. It's something to look into, a way of presenting that material and knowing that you're not violating everything and using something appropriately. This is something that we're hoping down the road to start being able to do with our own kids. One of our teachers even put together on their concert day, she had some audio clips she recorded of her kids during class, some pictures that she had of her kids during class, and put together a virtual concert. On concert day, she released it, had been prepping and previewing it all in advance of that, so everybody at the school, all parents, all kids, could see the concert the way they normally would have, getting that sense of normalcy, even though nothing about that was normal in our world. Some more tools are on, and every one of these is a live link that will take you to presentation tools, tools for art, tools for music. Mentimeters are great. If you need a quick question, you need to get it answered, it's a great way of getting a quick poll with your kids. It will drop right on your Google Classroom page. All of these will collaborate with your Google Classroom page, and it makes them very, very useful. Google Voice, I know it was presented earlier, a great way of getting your students to submit work if they're having trouble doing it through your classroom. The more of these that you can, and many of those were free, some had a price tag with them. What I would recommend is somebody coming from a district, invite your principal to co-teach in your class. If you happen to have a fine arts director, use them. If you have a colleague, even if they're from another district, bring them in as a co-teacher and talk to each other. Not necessarily during the class, especially if you're teaching live, but have them give you feedback. You can give them feedback. We're not in this alone. Make sure you're aligning lesson with your standards. It can't be what you enjoy teaching. It's got to align with those standards. We're all coming back into the building at some point. You don't want your kids behind. Make your content work worthy. If we're going to tell people and preach that we're arts teachers, we have meaningful content, we got to back it up, or all we're doing is saying words. Our folks differentiated through grade level classrooms. Our art teachers, for example, that's an elementary example. They had a K through K1 class, a 2 through 3 class, and a 4 or 5 classroom. A lot of their things that they would put on the announcements on their stream would be the same in all of those, but the work and the assignments would be a little different so they can make things tough enough for 4 or 5 that they weren't doing a K1 assignment. And our teachers found that was a great way to break that up. And yes, I mentioned this earlier, why not rehearse your bands and choirs? Why not rehearse your dancers or put on a theater performance if you're at that point? Live instruction, always better than video if you can make it work. If you can find times and work with your school administration for when you can teach those classes live, and in particular for elementary, that gets tough, you've got the entire school. And that's one of the battles we're working with, is how can we do that combination of synchronous and asynchronous at the same time and do what's right for the kids. I suggested to my folks, that's sort of how we do business. Every time you start class, you remind students, what are your expectations for your classroom? Just like you would do in your class. That would include muting your microphones. Make sure there's some place where there's no external, something that's going to bother them so they could be engaged in the class. What do you expect? What would you expect in your classroom? How are you going to relate that to your virtual classroom? You still have to have expectations, and the kids have to feel that. Assessments have to be meaningful. It can't be, we don't do worksheets. This is worksheet learning. So how do we do that virtually? What are we asking students to do? Are we asking them to submit their completed artwork? Are we asking them to sing a music clip so you can give them feedback on what they're performing? Because you've put an electronic piano accompaniment or used some of the tools that we've presented that you can put on there and they could sing to it as long as they've got headphones in. You won't hear the accompaniment, you'll hear them. And then my final thoughts were, if you're in doubt, please ask somebody. Ask your principal, ask a colleague. Don't stay in doubt. Collaborate, share ideas. There's people out there that know all of this. This is the time you can imagine anything. It's an opportunity more than anything else. Students are going to do what you expect from them. That's a beautiful thing about students. If you don't expect it, they're not going to go there. if they're expecting us to be the leaders, we have to lead in this as teachers. We have to be the people setting a course for them. And above all, you got to expect success from them. When you do that, no matter what happens, you may try something and it may fall flat. They don't know that. We'll revamp it, we'll fix it, we'll do it again. But if they know you're expecting them to be successful, they're going to give you success.
Thank you so much, Andrew. We really appreciate it. One of the things when we were talking to Andrew earlier that I loved so much was he was talking about if the director is conducting and everybody else is muted, you can still play together and it doesn't matter what your lag time is because if everyone's muted, they're still rehearsing. And you know, our standards say that students need to be able to respond to the conductor. That's what the standard actually says. So if students are watching the conductor and are playing, okay, they might not be getting that feedback for blending with their peers, but they're at least making progress towards mastering those proficiency-based standards. You know, that's way better than just saying, here's your music, go practice it. So there's still that live interactive element. That director can pause. They can say, hey, let's try this cutoff. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try this cutoff, you know, and there are many different ways that you can still interact with your students in a live sort of situation that that mimics the actual in-person sort of rehearsal. It might not be as good as an in-person rehearsal would be. Let's say it definitely isn't, but you're still making progress towards those goals that when we do all end up in the brick and mortar classroom, we haven't just wasted our time. So Sayward and I were just chatting a little bit and we were realizing we didn't talk at all about how Google Classroom is different than Canvas. And so about half of our registrants today said that they are mandated to teach in Google Classroom, but the other half said they're not yet. They either don't know or they're not. So Canvas, the easiest way I can say it is it's an online workbook / textbook. Like you can just build it one page into the other and it's like textbook, 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 workbook, textbook, textbook, discussion, you know, and so you build your own curriculum completely. Google Classroom, and Canvas is all like housed within Canvas. Google Classroom is basically a Facebook feed. You can link out to it to all of these other tools. So like Andrew was sharing all of the extra quick feedback tools or other resources that you'll learn about today. Those are all very easily integrated into a Google Classroom stream, and that's what Facebook would call its feed. Additionally, you can just go to the gradebook or have students go to the gradebook and see what's due when. They click on it, you know, and it can take them out, and everything is integrated into the gradebook. So that is how they're different, and I'm going to pass this off to Sayward to introduce Kate's content.
All right, thank you, Brandon. So Kate Cummings is a dance educator in Wake County who uses Google Classroom to deliver her instruction and assignments. She's also the North Carolina Dance Education Organization president. And since Kate is still on maternity leave, I will be going over the information she's shared with us. We have a video first to prepare to start with. So we're going to watch these words from Kate here. Brandon, we're not hearing the sound for it.
Dance 1 to 7.
Okay, hold on.
Dance.
I apologize. I was muted so that I wasn't creating extra noise. We'll try it again.
Hi, my name is Kate Cummings. I teach at Oberlin Magnet Middle School, formerly Daniels Magnet Middle School. am here in Raleigh, North Carolina at Wake County Public School System. So I teach middle grades 6th through 8th. I teach Introduction to Dance to 6th grade, Dance 1 to 7th, and then Dance 2 to 8th grade. Just a brief overview, Wake County, we did not have graded assignments, and we didn't start online learning, I believe, until week 3 that we were out. So we had about 9 weeks of a quarter of online learning. This was very new to me, except for Google Classroom I had used 3 years ago when I was on maternity leave while I was out to still stay connected. So I felt like this was a great tool for me. And Google is used amongst all of our colleagues in our school. So it was an easy thing for kids to see. So just a brief overview, I did weekly assignments because that was what was required of our middle grades in the county, and they only had to do 1 assignment. First assignment I used to gauge, and I think that I'm going to do this again coming up, is just they had a choice between doing a solo or a research assignment. I did that because the solo would require space, technology, and then this research assignment for a solo wouldn't require as much. For those of you curious, I always do a video for each assignment explaining it like we're in class. And I always do a copied link to the assignment so they don't have to create their own Google Doc. And the easiest way is if you look at this link, rather than having the edit at the end, you put copy and it automatically creates a copy to their Google Drive, which makes it easier to turn in. Each week after I did a gauge of what the students were willing to do and capable of, based off their needs and what they had at home, I created a choice board. The choice board I actually got from an idea of my visual arts teacher through her PLT, and I felt like this would work for this age and demographics. Each week I created a Google Slides. It was the same material within the Google slide, except I changed the theme of what you see. So like the Bitmojis and then the background matched. So I also labeled it. So the students knew that it was a new assignment, new week. I also did videos, recording myself saying, hey, how are you doing? It also included my family sometimes just because of the nature of what was going on, just to make that connection with the students and keep that going. I also had in this slide announcements you see right here at the bottom, my email, reminding the students to choose 1 choice per week and videos of how to turn in. So the choices are right here. There was 9 of them. 3 of them are choreography and the rest are research based where you do not have to record yourself. I did that because the majority of my students didn't have access or felt comfortable recording themselves doing solos. This made it easier to make assignments for all students. These are also assignments that tie in with our standards. And I was also on movement restrictions myself. I did have a student teacher who helped me out for the first couple of weeks before she was done with her student teaching. However, I could not record myself doing dances due to that. And so these are all on the students and they had choices. They only had to do 1. I uploaded the same board every week, but like I said, the theme was different, so it looked different. Once you click on a link, say you click on 1 link, it would go to that slide that was appropriate. You had the intro of the assignment. I had slides for the research right here. Everything is linked. And then I also have it just like the other assignment where it's a link and it creates a copy automatically in their Google Drive. Again, what you do is when you create that link, rather than having to edit, you just delete that and type copy into the link bar at the end of the hyperlink, and that will create a copy in their Google Drive, which makes it easier to turn in. This link is just a Google Doc explaining how to turn in an assignment. And as you can see, every assignment, and I also had the same document for all grade levels. It's right here, so that way they do it based off of their grade. And it was just a fun way to organize it. The last week I did do something different. I saw a lot of people doing like a classroom look for theirs. And so what I did was, this is kind of me experimenting. I had my weekly video and then I had these 2 assignments. for them to choose, or excuse me, to do both. The survey was basically asking them what worked, what didn't work, what they were missing from online learning, and that was very helpful for my planning for next year. And then I also embedded, wonderful picture of me, a video of me talking to the students about the past year and how things were going. And everything is embedded right here, like I said. And I also learned that embedding a YouTube video makes it easier to upload, or excuse me, for speed. But of course, if you're doing music, you have to worry about the copyright. So just be mindful of that. And I probably will do the choice boards. The students like the choice boards. I'm probably gonna do modified and maybe change it up where it's just 3 choices a week, but they all relate to the same standard. So like if we were studying, say, dance careers, I would probably have 3 different ways to turn it in, or 2, just depending on the week. The students like having the choice. Of course, that's more work on our side. I also plan on doing more movement exercises, but I do like the setup of doing Google Slides. Google Slides has been the easiest in Google Classroom. So when you do have your assignments in your classwork stream, it's, as you see right here, it's 1 assignment per right there. So that's my Google Classroom in a nutshell. This is only something that I slapped together for online learning in a short amount of time like you all had to do. I plan on doing a lot of changes once I get a confirmed update of what we're doing in August. My name is Kate again. Ways to contact me if you have any questions. I have my email down here. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Oberlin MS Dance. Those are the same for both. I still have to update my website link. And this also right here is a fun little thing that I do. I printed it out, put it on my door. I need to update it. And then I also use it on my website as a way for parents to feel engaged and find out a little bit more about the teacher. I hope this Google Classroom update, of course, is not everything that I did, but just a brief overview of how I set it up. That worked for me. Feel free to reach out. I would love to work with others and to learn more. I am not Google certified, and I would love to be, and I love to learn more about Google Classroom. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, that was awesome. And if your curiosity was piqued about that classroom sort of look, we're going to be doing Bitmoji classrooms on the 13th of this month. So stay tuned.
Great, thanks. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that you can do for creating those cool classrooms. So definitely check out that Bitmoji workshop if that's something you're interested in. So Kate shared just a little bit here of why she really likes Google Classroom. We were really excited to get her to share for this because, like she said, she's not Google certified. So this is how just, a teacher that's just now learning all of this has been able to utilize it in a very short time period. So those of you that are not feeling comfortable yet, these are all the things that you can do and learn very quickly. She really likes that dancers can upload their student directly into their assignments rather than share in a variety of different ways, keeps all the student work in one place in their Google Drive. The Google Slides allows freedom to display and navigate the content uploaded for each assignment. Parents can receive emails on the student assignments when they sign up. And most students and parents are familiar with Google already, so it's an easy learning curve for those families. And then what are ways that other dance educators can use Google Classroom, or any teachers really, but Kate's sharing for dance teachers, they can upload dance composition uploads to their assignments that only the teacher and the student will see. They can give quick feedback on the composition that only the teacher and student will see. And a variety of different assignments can be uploaded. There's another link down there. Oh, also there's a return assignment that will auto notify the student if the video that they upload does not work. So that's really handy for them to know immediately, my video didn't work, I need to try to do this again. And then her link to her video is down there again for you if needed. We're going to now turn things over to Jill from North Carolina Museum of Art to tell us a little bit about what they do that can incorporate into your Google Classroom.
Hey, thank you, Sayward. Good afternoon, everyone. So I hope that since you're arts teachers, that most of you are familiar with our teacher resource website, NCMA Learn. But if you're not, I hope you'll be more interested in visiting it after today. So NCMA Learn is full of resources for bringing NCMA's collection and approach to arts integration into your classroom, whether it's virtual or in person. So these include high quality reproductions of around 200 works from NCMA's collection, lesson plans, quick activity ideas, videos, and more. And early in remote learning, we had a question from a teacher about whether she could share NCMA Learn resources on Google Classroom. And my first immediate response was, sure, go ahead. Then I thought about it a little bit and I was like, maybe there was a little more to that question. So I looked into it and found out that there is kind of this sharing button that you can add to websites so that you can directly take something from a website and put it into your Google Classroom. And we did some research and had that added to our site. So if you look here, in this example, you'll see the little green icon listed with the other social media icons at the bottom of a post. And what you do, you click on that, and if you're assigned to your Google Classroom, I think Brandon's going to walk you through it here. So this is an artist from a video of an artist, and so I think he's going to add it to the art teacher's classroom, and you can create an assignment, ask a question. So and I think ask a question is good, Brandon, if you want to go with that. And then in this case, this video is of South African artist Liddell Mo, and the page already includes some questions. So you can just kind of drop those in, and when you and you can put in some instructions, and then it'll include a link to the video. So your students will be led directly to that video, so they don't have to search for it on the site or anything, and then they can post their answer within. And we've really thought about, depending on the resource, this is something that you can share with your students, but it's also something you can use in your own PD spaces on Google Classroom. So if any of your PLCs or other groups are using Google Classroom, if we have a series of webinars coming up at the museum, and you can share those as an event in your Google Classroom to get that out to your fellow teachers. But then you can also take some of the quick activity ideas or sharing a work of art directly to your students. So we hope that is something that's going to be very useful and helpful for you this year.
Thank you, Jill. And one of the things that you might not know is that NCMA Learn is not just for arts teachers. If you go to their lesson plans, you can see that they have all lesson plans, but then they also have dance, drama, English, math, science, social studies, and visual arts as well. And there are music links as well. And so you can search over here at the top, and there are lots of different ways to utilize that kind of arts integration that we were talking about earlier from the comprehensive arts education. So thank you so much, Jill.
Thank you.
So Jill, actually, all of her learning taught me a bunch about integrating Google Classroom buttons, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I was a general music teacher for 9 of my 10 years of teaching, and one of the things that I really loved teaching was 2nd grade science of sound. And so that's when I really started utilizing Google Music Lab, or excuse me, Chrome Music Lab. The wonderful thing about this is that it's not an app. It's not dependent on your iOS or your Android platform. You don't need any, like, the kids don't need to be on the same platform. If you're an art teacher, there's an amazing art project here that you can draw, and then it turns it into art or music. So if I, draw, I don't even know what this is going to be, a bird, and then and then he needs to have triangular wings. You know, because there are 3 different ways, and then you can hit play. And some of this is more of experiential, arts exposure sort of things. Some of it is more standards driven. There are, you know, parts about oscillators and harmonics. There are things about sound waves and circle of fifths. So depending on how you plan to use this, it could be light music, or it could actually be standards driven instruction. Very easy to integrate within Google Classroom. Google Voice is another Google product that is super easy to integrate. If your students don't have recording equipment, Google Voice is a great option. I've taught across the entire socioeconomic spectrum, and this is something that has never been a problem for kids. So if you sign up for a Google Voice account, it is a free phone number that you can set up an answering message. And it could even be something like your students have been given these 10 sight reading examples, and you're not going to tell them which one they're going to be tested on, and they're going to find out when they call in that, you know, A through M have to do numbers 2 and number 7, and N through Z last names have to do, you know, 1 and 6. But you could change that for beginning, intermediate, proficient, and advanced students in your message. So there's lots of different ways that they can call in, leave that voicemail for you to assess later, and you have a recording of it. Just wanted to point out, kind of as Kate was saying, Google Docs perfectly integrates with with Google Classroom. Slides is something that works super well. I've linked to an artist spotlight lesson plan from our Teaching North Carolina Arts project that you can see as an example there. Everything you turn into Google Docs Google Classroom is pretty much either going to be a PDF, a Google Doc, or a picture. So students can even build a whole Google site, which is the way that we've built our Google site for the North Carolina Arts Education Department. And you can turn that whole site into. So it's really fantastic in the way that you can turn things in. This is my favorite thing that I've used. You've probably all heard of Noteflight, but Noteflight got persnickety and got a lot tighter about the controls and what you were able to do with students. And so flat.io is paid. It's $2 per student. It's something that you can speak to your district level administration, your building level administration, or something that you can use your program funds for. That's what I did. And it integrates actually with Google Classroom, Canvas, Moodle, and like everything. But what it does, so here I've got all of their social media, and this little gray sort of 5-line symbol is the flat symbol. You can basically sign or put out a template of an assignment, and they are able to click on it in their stream, and then it makes them a copy, and they are notating what the rest of the melody is. I used to do this for dictation as well, where I'd send out a just a blank rhythm line with rhythmic dictation, and they'd have to type it in, or if it was melodic dictation, a blank treble staff or a blank bass staff. It might have the first measure and the third measure completed, and they had to do the second and the fourth. So there's lots of different ways that they can do this. All they have to do is, you know, put in the notes, and then they hit turn it in, and it automatically goes to your Google Classroom gradebook. And so, yeah, you can see what they're doing as they're doing it. You can kind of toggle through the different students, and you can give feedback like they're saying right there. This is hyperlinked. There are so many amazing things that you can do with this. Students can work on projects together. It's just a tool that I have used and found success with, but I know there are lots of different ones out there. So, whoops, I did not mean to open that up again. If you are unaware of our Teaching North Carolina Arts project, this is what I was talking about. Jill challenged me unwittingly. We have added sorry, let me go back. So the Teaching North Carolina Arts project is in its building stage. North Carolina music is complete. North Carolina dance and visual art are currently being researched and built, and then theater arts is coming hopefully later in the fall. And so once you get in here, there's kind of a portal for teachers, which is instructional tools, and students underneath the Explore More. And so when you get here, you see that the map here has all of our artists that we connected through the North Carolina Arts Council, and you can find them all kind of regionally. Or you can go to different categories here. And at the end of each and every one of these main pages, so not nitty gritty, I wasn't able to get that far. But you know, if you want to do beach music, you can go down to beach music and you can share this with your page with your students. And then they can come here and learn more about selected beach music artists. There are beach music lessons that you can ask them to connect with and complete. And then there's even more beach music resources here connected throughout our Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. So NCP, the Arts Council, the Symphony, those sorts of partners are what we work with. So that is fully integrated now into Google Classroom as well. So we know that you guys probably are drowning in ideas and resources now and eager to get back to those early slides and start clicking on things, but we wanted to open up any sort of Q&A that you might have regarding any of ideas or specific things that you'd like to ask. So we'll go ahead and start with just putting those things into the chat so that you can ask whatever questions come to mind. Andrew has a lot of experience seeing what a lot of different teachers did in Vance County. Alicia, go for it. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you guys for putting on these sessions. I've been to every one and have enjoyed. It is a lot of great information. I think my question would be, do I gather my information like somewhere and then load them into my Google Classroom or my Canvas or whatever my platform is, or do I go into Google Classroom and then start to set things up? What is the best way? I think that's why I'm having the brain issue right now.
Yeah, so Alicia, do you use Google Drive for school?
Yes, and we are mandated to use Canvas. So we have been, I've learned how to import from my Google Docs and my Google Drive into Canvas. But it seems like I would be more effective if I had my things set up somewhere to just plug everything in.
Yeah, so the way I always did my online courses, way back when I taught online courses, is I would have in my Google Drive, I would have one folder for the name of that course, and then inside that I would have 7 folders that were simply the unit names, and then inside each one of those I would have all of my resources, so that I never had to like think about how to access things. And then also you can, it's easy just to drag things into those folders, and as soon as they're in those folders, they're on the cloud. You have a link that's easy to share with your students. And so that is the easiest way that I've found to organize myself so that I can put that in a platform that is outward facing to students. Sorry, in fact, that's how we built everything for the Teaching North Carolina project as well.
I have a comment here.
Yeah.
My name is Alice Zincone, and I've used Google Classroom in the past. So Alicia, when you set up a Google Classroom for each of your classes and you make an assignment, if you use a document you've already made on your hard drive and attach it to that assignment, a copy of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't a copy of that automatically save in a file that Google Classroom already makes when you make the classroom? So you don't have to preload Google Drive on the front end. You can if you want to, but when you set up that classroom, Google Classroom will automatically make a folder for that classroom, and all your attachments and assignment materials and things like that will go into that file folder automatically. Then later you can drag stuff from your computer or what have you, but you can attach to an assignment from your Google Drive, your hard drive, YouTube, all that stuff. And it's all saved in that file that's attached and automatically made by Google Classroom app.
That's good to know. I didn't know that.
I definitely appreciate that information. What I was trying to also find is how to embed so my students would not have to click on links and go different places, but embed everything in Canvas. And then that way it appears there. So I know how to, I just don't know how to do the Google Classroom embedding.
I don't know about Canvas, but I just came out of a district that was going to use that, and they said that Google and Canvas, you could, like they played well together or something. My thought is that you would link to Google Classroom in Canvas, and you will want to use the rubric feature in Google Classroom because that will provide instant feedback for the students. Then you have a grading sheet for everything you graded on the rubric, and then people in my former school were talking about importing or exporting grades out of Google Classroom into Canvas. So I hope your district gives you some professional development about this, but because I don't know anything about building classes and putting assignments in Canvas. I would do, if you can just put a link to their Google Classroom in Canvas, that's what I would do. And I found anything I have a question about, I think I saw a slide earlier, just Google that question. How do I do this in Google Classroom? And you can always find an answer.
And that's something we've tried to emphasize, especially with Canvas, is that they actually update their, you know how like you get messages from different services that say, you know, it's going to be down from this time to this time because we're updating everything. Canvas actually updates 24/7. And so things change so fast, and we've shared the link in the Canvas webinars, but there's actually like the Canvas instructions for instructors or something like that. And even our Canvas people at DPI say, you got to go check that because it might be different from the last time you did it, and it might be different from the last time I did it. So yeah, Googling that stuff and asking how to do that is how we've learned most of those things. Let's see, we have
Shannon had a question. Shannon had written earlier that she had a question. Do you want to unmute, Shannon?
Yeah, Alicia kind of answered it for me. She asked it for me.
Okay, perfect.
I'm listening. Thank you.
Awesome, yes.
And then I think this is a great time to just say that, yeah, so many things are being decided on the building level. So some districts are choosing things to roll out on the district level. So like Andrew has done an amazing job making sure that all of his teachers are on the same platform and all of them have the same.
Although Brandon, you say that our district is using two levels, both platforms, based on elementary and secondary. Our elementary folks are using Google Classroom. This year, our secondary are transitioning to Canvas from grade 6 all the way up to 12. So we're working both right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure that you guys will apply the same logic that you did last spring to Canvas, but that's great.
And that's our plan. I'll let you know.
Well, so yeah, we have no mandates at all from DPI state level. Some LEAs are making decisions at the LEA level, but a lot of schools are making school decisions. But I would say try to find out if there's not a central decision, try to find out what most teachers are using and go on that platform, because the fewer things our students need to learn, the less activation energy there is to get them on board with what you're doing. We are happy to talk more and answer more questions, but we do want to move forward and ensure that everyone who attended today is able to receive their credit. So just a few things, if you can type them into the chat about what you're excited while I'm sharing the information on this slide. The first link invites you to share your remote learning ideas. And then the second link actually allows you to see what everybody else's remote learning ideas are as well. And this is something we've been sharing in all of our webinars. So it might have Canvas things, it might have Pear Deck things, might have lesson planning things. There's lots in there. And then this is your survey link. It is going to be different this time, hopefully. You will be getting a certificate that looks like the image in the bottom right-hand corner here, and it should be emailed directly to you. Since this is a new thing, kind of to safeguard, we have done it both ways, both the old way where you can download the old Arts Are for Life certificate, but it should also email you this blue official NCDPI certificate as well. So to safeguard, I would probably download the old one and then wait to see if this one emails you as well. And that will happen after you've hit submit on the survey. All right, and there is the rest of our information, and you are welcome to stick around and continue asking questions if you'd like. Definitely hang on just to listen if you're filling out your survey, and we are here for more questions if you'd like. Go ahead and retype your name or your question into the chat if you still have one that you'd like to talk about.
So I thought I put something in there. I have one more thing. It's not really a question, one thing to share that people that are new to Google Classroom might want to take note of, and especially if you're teaching multiple sections of one class. So if you're in high school, you have 2 or 3 sections of beginning art, maybe 1 or 2 of intermediate, so on and so forth. If you're in elementary school, you're going to have 4 or 5, maybe 6 kindergartens, etc. You only have to make that assignment one time. You do have to make the individual classes, but I always would go to my first of that first section of that class and make the assignment, and then I open up the next classroom, and when you say create an assignment, it says reuse topic or reuse assignment or something like that, and you can reuse, and you don't have to, it's copies right over. I've given feedback to Google to make a checkbox, like when I make this assignment, I also at this moment want to assign it to all these other sections or all these other classes. I can't remember if that's happened or not, but that will save you a lot of repetition.
I know that's a feature that I used in Flat, and I know that that's something that a lot of the extra tools that Andrew shared earlier, you can do that, and it says, if you are going to share with a class and it asks you which classes do you want to share this with, you can click multiple classes. So that's the nice thing, I would say. The biggest plus about Google Classroom is that it's a Google product, so it integrates with so many different things. And don't forget, those first slides were just filled with ideas that we did not even go over.
And there's so many things that you don't realize integrate with Google Classroom that very likely, if you think it's going to work, try it, because it probably does.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream on Facebook. And we will go ahead and stop sharing or stop recording.